This is Wharton County Electric Co-op's outage web map. It's used for displaying phone calls from customers saying they're out of power. Each of these red dots represents a customer that is called in saying that they're out of power. Now I will demonstrate for you how to enter new phone calls as people call in and say they're out of power. If you hit this query box, you can hit by name, for instance, and just enter in somebody's last name, and it will wildcard everyone with that same last name, and then you choose the correct customer. And you see it highlighted them on the map right there. It says zoom to here, but all that does is center it. You really should just roll in or zoom in on there using your roll on your mouse until you see the green dot with it highlighted. And then you can left click on that guy, and this options come up, and then you just hit create outage call, and then you hit submit. Now you notice right over here there's a box that with nothing in it right now. What it tries to do is take this information here and here and auto map it for you also here, but sometimes when there's additional info like lot 3 in here, it can't find it, so it doesn't show you. But that's just for one more confirmation. You don't really need that because you do have them on the map. So then you enter into this comments area any information that might be helpful that the member may have told you. And then go back to the map, and it creates a red dot on that customer right there. And now we're going to enter several more so that we can build an outage in this location. You can do it straight off the map, or you can do it by entering in their names. So I'm just going to do some quick ones here. And you see there that one did map, but it was just based on the center of town because there's no emergency address entered, and we don't have a good phone number for this person. So you see, as we're entering these, the dots are showing up on the maps of their calls. And in this case, it did map them. It found a good address for them, and it mapped them. Now, if we just zoom out a little bit and start studying this as these phone calls are coming in, you can see there's a breaker upstream, or an OCR, that sits right here that protects this area. So as the phone calls come in, you can kind of start determining what may be open based on the cluster of calls. And it's not necessary to enter comments on every customer, just if it's information, or member, just if it's information that's going to be helpful in determining the problem and getting their power restored. So you get the idea. That's how the calls are entered, and you kind of see how the outage is building towards that breaker. Now I'm also feeding that information into Unplugged. So here we used color by custom and chose to make outage calls red, and it's feeding from the same information that you were posting on the web map into here. So every phone call that's come in is red on here, and you can verify that by going under the externals on the customer data, and this is the same data, and it's just where their power is off has been set to true. And now you can go over by looking at this and look at the nearest upstream device and switch over to trace circuit and see that that device right there is protecting them. And that is a OCR in this case, and it's a 70 2A or 4H2A2B. So you could give that information to the lineman and tell him that that's the suspected device open. And now that you've determined that by looking in here, you could switch back over to your web map and add some notes to this page about that. And to do that, you click on here, and there's several symbols, and this is kind of freehand sketching. So we might just place a symbol here like that, and then you can edit this symbol by clicking here, edit pop-up. I like to change this from the word critical issue to might be open, just some information that might be helpful on the pop-up. And if you've already notified a crew, then you can feed that information in there too. And then as people receive additional phone calls on this same line, that might be some information that they could share with the member about that. And then if the crew has arrived on scene, you might type on something like whatever they found. And then anyone who's got the web map then can click on there and read the note, and then they see the phone calls as they continue to build. Because anyone that's helping out with the outage calls can be entering these in. So now they may say, well, we've gotten it clear and we've restored the power. Well, how do you get all these dots off your map now? Well, you can click on the red dot, and then one of the options is delete outage call. And then this screen comes up. Now, I don't actually delete the calls. What I do is I archive the calls so that they can be used for reporting purposes later. And I'm recording this at a small resolution so that it can be projected. Normally you wouldn't work with this small of a resolution, and you don't have to scroll as much as what you're seeing me scroll here to close these calls. So you see the dots are beginning to go away as we choose them. Let's just focus in on this dot. It takes about probably 4 or 5 seconds for the dot to go away because it has to refresh it to the map. So it's not right away when you click on it, but it's within a reasonable amount of time. So here we'll just kind of zoom in and out, and we should see those 2 dots go away. Maybe I didn't. Yeah, there we go. So there you see all the dots went away, and then you can just delete this pop-up once you're done working the outage by clicking Edit and Delete. So that's kind of how it works. Now let's talk about some of these other queries over here. Here's the outage calls list. This is a list. Once you've worked that outage, you can see other phone calls coming in, and if you double click on that person, it takes you to their symbol on the map, the red dots here, to help you start working the other outages. And you can click on it and read whatever notes have been typed in by the dispatchers about that outage right here. And if you need to edit that note, then you can just click on there and type in whatever additional information you need to enter right here. And you don't have to worry about the timestamp. Every time more notes are typed, I automatically generate a date timestamp for that note. And then if you just click off and back on him, you will see the additional information, and that note was then added this morning. And other things you can query by poll number. You can query by any of the device names. I showed before how in Unplugged we had chosen this device. So H315A, if you just come under here, back over here, and go to there and type in H315A, we should be able to go to that device. Double click on it, and there is the location of that device. So you see it always places a lightly colored symbol on top of where that device sits. And there it is right there. And you just have to choose it here. Now there's additional information here, like it just says WM map name. If you click right here, you can see all the data that's in there for those devices, or for anything. For the customers, the same way. You can see additional information there. And it's all the information that out of your... So here's a limited amount. Well, if you need to see more information, just click here. And this is all the information that's been provided to us that should match what's in your billing and your Unplugged.